Well, thank you. This is a lot of deliveries you have to make now.
No, I just knew you were here.
Yeah.
Everybody else gets them on Friday.
Well, I appreciate it.
Chris Kessler's downstairs. So
Okay, great.
So it'll just be the Thompsons and the Shies.
Our audio did work for our Zoom recording last night.
No.
It worked. It was fine.
Oh, it did work.
It did work.
Oh,
The,
I thought it didn't.
no, this kind of silly part though is because you're recording essentially the screen share, and we didn't really go through the screens much. So you've got the tiny little picture of us just at tables, but the audio is perfect. So it's pretty big though. So I think what I'm going to do is put it into the Google Drive and then just send them a link to it, so they can play it through there. Or I may just pop it onto YouTube and make it private. That might be easier.
Bailey, are you going to be using the whole cornerstone on Saturday morning?
I don't think she can hear you because of the headphones.
Oh, what?
Will you be using almost all corners of the cornerstone
For Saturday?
For Saturday. We can be flexible with what you need.
well, you know, I'm doing the habitat. Hold on, this is my eye doctor. Sorry. Hello? I'll get you later. Hello?
If you could just either keep doing that at a steady rate or start reading something.
Okay. We'll read some. I just did the old flip open the Bible and then I'll start reading where I flipped it. So, as you would expect, 1 Chronicles 13. So David conferred with each of his officers, the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds. He then said to the whole assembly of Israel, "If it seems good to you, and if it is the will of the Lord our God, let us send word far and wide to the rest of our people throughout the territories of Israel, and also to the priests and Levites who are with them in their towns and pasture lands, to come and join us. Let us bring the ark of our God back to us, for we did not inquire of it during the reign of Saul." The whole assembly agreed to do this, because it seemed right to all the people. So David assembled all Israel from the Shihor River in Egypt to Lebo Hamath to bring the ark of God to Kiriath Yearim. David and all Israel went to Baalah of Judah, Kiriath Yearim, to bring up from there the ark of God, the ark of God, the Lord, who is enthroned between the cherubim, the ark that is called by the name. They moved the ark of God from Abinadab's house on a new cart, with Uzzah and Ahio guiding it. David and all the Israelites were celebrating with all their might before God with songs and with harps, lyres, timbrels, cymbals, and trumpets. When they came to the threshing floor of Kedon, Uzzah reached out his hand to steady the ark because the oxen stumbled. The Lord's anger burned against Uzzah, and he struck him down because he had put his hand on the ark. So he died there before God. Then David was angry because the Lord's wrath had broken out against Uzzah, and to this day that place is called Perez Uzzah. David was afraid of God that day and asked, "How can I ever bring the ark of God to me?" He did not take the ark to be with him in the city of David. Instead, he took it to the house of Obed-Edom the Gittite. The ark of God remained with the family of Obed-Edom in his house for 3 months, and the Lord blessed his household and everything he had. Is that enough? You want me to keep going?
Pause it. So, okay, I discovered one thing that Kelly is lugging in.
Okay.
I discovered something extremely useful within the computer.
Okay.
And I feel great about that. I discovered.
Okay.
field.
You have discovered the thing you needed to find.
Yes.
Yes.
But I have not discovered it. This is something that Keith found on Sunday,
Oh, nice.
which rescued us. Okay, Ark of God remains good. Okay, will you read a little bit?
Sure.
more?
Sure. We will. Let's continue the story.
Okay.
Kind of skips around a little bit here, but now Hiram, king of Tyre, sent messengers to David along with cedar logs, stonemasons, and carpenters to build a palace for him. And David knew that the Lord had established him as king over Israel and that his kingdom had been highly exalted for the sake of his people Israel. In Jerusalem, David took more wives and became the father of more sons and daughters. These are the names of the children born to him there: Shammah, Shobab, Nathan, Solomon, Ibhar, Elishua, Elpelet, Nogah, Nepheg, Japhia, El-Shammah, Beel-Leadah, and Elphalet. When the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over all Israel, they went up in full force to search for him. But David heard about it and went out to meet them. Now the Philistines had come and raided the valley of Rephaim. So David inquired of God, "Shall I go and attack the Philistines? Will you deliver them into my hands?" The Lord answered him, "Go, I will deliver them into your hands." So David and his men went up to Baal Perazim, and there he defeated them. He said, "As waters break out, God has broken out against my enemies by my hand." So that place was called Baal Perazim. The Philistines had abandoned their gods there, and David gave orders to burn them in the fire. Once more the Philistines raided the valley, so David inquired of God again, and God answered him, "Do not go directly after them, but circle around them, and attack them in front of the poplar trees. As soon as you hear the sound of marching in the tops of the poplar trees, move out to battle, because that will mean God has gone out in front of you to strike the Philistine army."
Hey, Daniel, can you lean into this one so that your voice gets bigger?
Sure. So David did as God commanded him, and they struck down the Philistine army all the way from Gibeon to Gezer. So David's fame spread throughout every land, and the Lord made all the nations fear him. After David had constructed buildings for himself in the city of David, he prepared a place for the ark of God and pitched a tent for it. Then David said, "No one but the Levites may carry the ark of God, because the Lord chose them to carry the ark of the Lord and to minister before him forever." David assembled all Israel in Jerusalem to bring up the ark of the Lord to the place he had prepared for it. He called together the descendants of Aaron and the Levites from the descendants of Kohath, Uriel, the leader, and 120 relatives from the descendants of Merari, Uzziah, the leader, and 220 relatives from the descendants of Gershon, Joel, the leader, and 130 relatives from the descendants of Elizaphan, Shemaiah, the leader, and 200 relatives from the descendants of Hebron, Eliel, the leader, and 80 relatives from the descendants of Uzziel, Aminadab, the leader, and 112 relatives. Then David summoned Zadok and Abiathar the priests, and Uriel, Uzziah, Joel, Shemaiah, Eliel, Aminadab the Levites. He said to them, "You are the heads of the Levitical families. You and your fellow Levites are to consecrate yourselves and bring up the ark of the Lord, the God of Israel, to the place I have prepared for it."
This is great. Now can you read it like you were reading like a gentle and comforting part?
Okay. "It was because you, the Levites, did not bring it up the first time that the Lord our God broke out in anger before us. We did not inquire of him about how to do it in the prescribed way. So the priests and Levites consecrated themselves in order to bring up the ark of the Lord, the God of Israel. And the Levites carried the ark of God with the poles on their shoulders, as Moses had commanded, in accordance with the word of the Lord. David told the leaders of the Levites to appoint their fellow Levites as musicians, to make a joyful noise with musical instruments, lyres, harps, and cymbals. So the Levites appointed Haman, son of Joel, from his relatives Asaph, son of Berechiah, and from their relatives the Merarites, Ethan, son of Cushiah, and with them their relatives next in rank, Zechariah, Jaziel, Shemiramoth, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Benaiah, Messiah, Mattatiah, Eliphalihu, Micniah, Obed-Edom, and Jael, the gatekeepers. The musicians, Haman, Asaph, and Ethan, were to sound the bronze cymbals. Zechariah, Jasiel, Shemiramoth, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Messiah, and Benaiah were to play the lyres according to Alamoth. And Mattatiah, Eliphalehu, Micniah, Obed-Edom, Jael, and Azaziah were to play the harps, directing according to Sheminith.
Okay, take a break.
Yeah.
This is great. I think the setting that Keith found in the computer is the missing link.
Okay.
So Kelly said when you really leaned in, you got a little bit of distortion at the top. So I tweaked gain down hair again.
Okay.
And then was able to turn up this internal setting for, it's like a specific, it's a device setting for the micro, I don't understand what it is.
Okay. But we're getting
Everything sounds great.
something's getting, it's productive is what we're
It's
saying.
productive. Kelly says everything sounds great.
Okay.
Kelly says that the way it is right now, she can hear me from the back of the congregation.
Okay.
So I think.
That's good. That would mean that we're going to be capturing a little more of the ambiance, which has been a, less prioritized concern that's been brought up.
Well, and maybe people will be able to hear the kids a little bit.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to hear them at home.
Right.
So this is.
So we may have,
We may have done it.
yeah. And that's a royal we, because I've just been reading.
You've been helping, and God gave me stuff to look at.
Yep. And Keith was finding
He found the
things.
setting
Yep.
and everything. So I think
This is the part where we're like, it's like at the, at the awards. I'd like to thank Guy and Keith
Yes.
and Kelly for listening to this from various places during our streams. For those who commented on our previous tests on Facebook, I'd like to say thank you.